We're back on, and let's get into it. We're going to be talking about Joe Rogan and what he was caught saying. We're going to be talking about Iran punk Trump. Okay, rejected his peace deal and much more. Let's get into it.
Of things at this point. The audience, not so much. It really feels like we got that same studio audience from the first episode, frozen in time in 1999, and has stayed the exact same every season of the show's run. One thing I love about this is a staple of the show is the host making a little quip and then immediately smirking like... Especially Doug here.
And who makes these random age limits? 21 to drink, 18 to vote, and how come if a kid graduates college at 16, he's a genius? But Tracy Lords does some fantastic films at 16, and suddenly it's wrong! It's against the law!
Well...
Who? What? Wow. To say that, that's insane. That is freaking insane. Wow. I don't know.
Oh, well. That is what we have been waiting for. And the first thing, when I first saw this clip, the first thing I thought about was Joe Rogan and the Epstein files. When people found about that, including Joe, everyone said he turned them down. He turned them down. Even though there were some things missing, including Joe's email response. But one of the first things I remember saying about this, and I stood alone saying I didn't believe Joe. I stood alone and got a lot of shit for it. But one of the first things I said is you don't get that kind of invite unless you put out that vibe or just straight outright say that's what you're into. And, or somebody sees something and might think you're into something and they reach out to you. Now, on this video, we have Joe Rogan admitting to watching 16-year-old Tracy Lords D-Hub films. I can't say the other word. The corn. There you go. That's what they say. The corn. We have Joe Rogan admitting. Now, where would Epstein catch a vibe if Joe Rogan was admitting that on public TV? Now, I know everyone's going to say that's a joke. That's a joke. But how did Joe even know that those films existed?
I making a joke like that would have me looking at you suspect. Like, what? Whoa. What are you looking at 16-year-old girls for? Even when I was growing up, that would be a crime. Like, lock them up.
How did he even know that Tracy Lords did those kinds of films at 16? I'll wait. Come on, Rogansphere fans. And now, this right here answers the question why Ari Shaffir is around. Because they might all be into that. This makes the point. Bert Kreischer stood there while Ari Shaffir told that story and still has Ari Shaffir around. This explains why Lee Diaz is still around. This explains why Brian Callen is still around. And we're going to watch more so you can see Joe's true feelings about things. And what made this show about. I hate to say it, but I was right all along. And you're going to look at them Epstein a little differently. And this time you can't ignore that Joe Rogan's email and the other emails of Joe Rogan's in there that paint a little bit of a different picture. Let's watch the rest of this film, folks.
Well, listen to me. I've seen those videos, and that was no innocent little girl.
No innocent little girl. No innocent little girl. There's a reason why that Oklahoma is, 36 Republicans voted against banning child marriage. This is, I hate to say it, but This is the culture of some white people in this country. Most of them, not all, but most of them are okay. There's a reason why the United States has different age of consent laws in this country. That's the thing. How are you going to stop human trafficking and abuse towards kids if every state in America has different age of consent laws? They all should be one age, and that should be 21. 21. The way things are going, 21.
Paula, if you hear me, where are all the haters now? Where are you at? You rushing to the comments now? We got it on tape, on national TV. Joe Rogan admitting to CP. How about that? Y'all didn't want to believe me. That's Spidey sense, right? Miss Cleo! Told you I was better than her.
Yeah, let's find the biggest broom we can and sweep that under the fucking rug. That was a rough one. At the beginning, it was kind of like, oh, but then he just kept going and going and going.
They say if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, then he's going to get a fishing license, but he doesn't have any money, so he's going to get a job and get into the social security system, and he can't even cook the fish because he needs a permit for an open flame, and the health department is asking him a lot of questions about where he's going to dump the scales and the guts. And guess what? If you get tired of it all at the end of the day, you're not even legally able to kill yourself.
Everyone says Doug Stanhope is one of the greatest. Okay.
I have to say, I have not yet.
Wait, I just have to say, comedy, like, people make comedy out to be this, like, high art form. They hold it up like, it's freedom and justice, you know, all this stuff. But I'm going to put something out there, and I know people are going to get mad at me, and I'm not saying there aren't comedians out there and funny, but comedy as a genre and as a whole, to me, is in the tanks. It's very rare that I look at mainstream. Well, let's just say mainstream comedy. It's very rare that I look at mainstream comedy, these guys that Netflix promotes, the Kill Tonys, Tony Hinchcliffe, the Rogan's Sphere, even people outside of them, and see someone that is actually funny, like, you know, back in the 90s, and or like Bernie Mac, or has the power that Bernie Mac had on stage, the charisma. I don't see that anymore. And another thing,
It's true. I mean, you had comedians like Sam Kinison, you had George Carlin, you know, those type of white comedians. Not to make this about race, but those type of comedians, they had fire. Okay, they had fire. They had they were funny. And these days, it's just dead. Unless you have some really good comedians like Dave Chappelle.
While I was growing up, I thought we were living in places and striving for morals, right? But I understand that bad things happen. That's just how the world goes. But the majority was striving for moral. Shows like this, clips like this remind me that men were always fucking pigs. At least the men up there. Well, hell, I don't know. I don't know the percentage. But at least in the entertainment industry, men were always fucking pigs. Not all of them, but a lot of them were. And what we're seeing now in the Epstein files and all of this stuff, it was there all along. It's just shocking. Really shocking, and I've said it before, but I got to because I still don't believe how corrupt America is and just the world in general. Or let's just say humanity. It is so shocking every time I think about it. But then you see more and more, all the precursors, everything that led up to today. It's mind-boggling.
a group of people that enthusiastic and cheerful at the thought of killing themselves. Something else that also hasn't changed since the first episode is the short sleeve shirts that both the host and the audience are wearing. Really a sign of the times. I don't even know if you can call them short sleeve shirts. They're really just rocking a sawed-off karate gi at this point.
I thought it'd be interesting to sit down with some bookers and watch one of my favorite movies, Pretty Woman, to find out how accurately it portrays their real lives. Welcome to Joe's Movie Club.
Okay, for a split second, I thought Joe Rogan was wearing do-rag, which would have been amazing, but can't get everything we want.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
You really enjoy your job, too. Could you imagine doing anything else?
Could you imagine me as like a secretary somewhere? Yeah, sure, be in the delivery boy.
All right, so
we all know that the Rogan's and crew always hung out at strip clubs, and I'm just gonna this is not the truth, but I'm just gonna, put my Kalshi bet that they paid for stuff too. I think so.
So much for that illusion that these communities get chicks and they usually get prostitutes. Like, okay, all right, let's keep it moving.
I think they're just dirty men. I don't understand paying for that kind of stuff or paying at the strip clubs. It usually means you can't get laid.
Pretty much. It's pretty much. I mean, guys who used to talk about the pickup game and all that stuff, they relied on the gift of gab. Okay, they relied on being able to talk to a woman, befriend a woman, and if anything happens, it happens. If not, it doesn't. Okay. And I think the manosphere, and I blame the manosphere for that, because it tries to make it like it's easy. Relationships are never easy. Life is never easy.
But they were always there despite being famous. I think they're just dirty, nasty men. And I'm not sitting here on any moral high ground. Don't get me wrong. But Joe Rogan just admitted to watching underage videos. And I'm still waiting to hear the answer for how did he even know about that. That stuff back in the 90s, early 2000s, that wasn't sitting on the shelf at 7-Eleven. That wasn't even sitting on the shelf at the XXX store. So how did Joe Rogan know about them then? But the Rogans...
The more things come out, the more you're shocked, man. I was shocked about James Dobson and the Epstein files. Well, not his books and his techniques. They frighten me. They really frighten me. Like, wow. Just wow. Let's keep going.
Watch the Rogan's. I mean, it doesn't even matter. They did it with Trump. They'll do it with Joe Rogan. Well, in the island of the legal age of consent is 14. So Joe Rogan's okay. That's the kind of shit these guys come up with.
I hear that crap with the passport bros sometimes. Well, in another country, it's legal, The crap people defend these days, that some dudes defend, it's sickening. It is. Wow. That's all I could say.
With the sausage party, and
Most of it was just
most of
girls,
it was
like 20-year-old
not
girls,
like 13,
18-year-old girls.
What is this? Epstein wasn't Coachella for billionaires. It was an organized abuse network. This guy is giving airtime to numerous conspiracies. False flags? Let's go. DMT elves? Say less. Moon landing? Fake. Elon wanting a party at the island? Let's move on. Have you seen who Joe Rogan's interviewed in the last couple of years? It looks like a guest list for Epstein's private jet. So now Joe Rogan is downplaying the Epstein files.
barely legal, so to speak. But and I know that there were cases of underage, but
Most of it was just
very, very young, but not not like
20-year-old
not like
girls,
13
18-year-old
type,
girls.
type thing. Do think that girls juice deals, and the fact that he had the coolest parties on a private island with the hottest girls is
Also
something
brought
that
in
makes
a lot of intellectuals, stimulating conversation, scientists, all these very interesting people. So that was part of the thing, right? That was the draw.
Try hosting a cool party as a guy with a bad ratio, so to speak.
Sausage party.
With a sausage party. And when you develop a reputation for having attractive women at the parties you host, you become an important person to know in the network.
When a big story dropped, you used to be like, damn, I wonder what Joe's gonna say about it. But he slowly went from questioning power to protecting it. The old Rogan would have dug into the files and seen what's there.
Yo, Rice probably didn't do that because owned by he's best buddies with Trump. All right, best buddies with Trump, and who's Trump best buddies with? That country far, far away. That if you commit any of those crimes, being with an underage girl, you could escape there. And he got this policy called order of return.
Office.
But let's talk about Joe Rogan's other activities, being with Donald Trump, and how, doing what white supremacists do best.
Joe Rogan walked into the Oval Office, stood behind the president, grinned from ear to ear all over a plant from the Congo. The plant is called ibogaine. It is a sacred medicine of the Bwiti people. They've been using it for centuries. It belongs to them. One dose, and addiction and PTSD are treated. In the middle of America's self-induced opioid crisis, you do the math on what that's worth to investors. But here's what you need to know before we go any further. While you're watching this video, a child in the Congo is being violated, not once today, every half hour. In fact, over 6 million Congolese people have been killed in a 30-year-long genocide. That is the entire population of Denmark, erased. Mothers, fathers, children, gone. And the West has not missed a single night's sleep over it. Why? Because the Congo is the most valuable piece of land on this earth. Cobalt, coltan, copper, lithium, the minerals inside every electric car, every smartphone, every clean energy promise made in Davos or Silicon Valley. None of it exists without the Congo. All of it paid for in Congolese blood. The Congo sits on $24 trillion in mineral wealth, and Congolese children dig it out with their bare hands so Silicon Valley can call itself innovative. This is the country that Joe Rogan is doing business in. Joe Rogan, ex-reality TV host, white nationalist.
So Joe Rogan is not only making jokes about pedophiles, it's okay he's basically saying it's okay to sleep with underage girls. Joe Rogan's a colonizer.
Darling, zero medical training, texted the president about the plant. And Trump's response was, sounds great. Do you want FDA approval? Let's do it. A sacred African plant fast-tracked through the FDA over a text message while a genocide rages, while children are being violated every half hour. Rogan and his investors see a business opportunity. Stepping over 6 million dead to get to a $9 billion market. That is not ambition. That is evil. The same colonial appetite that has fed off the Congo for centuries has its eyes on the plants now. Different name, different era, same crime. The Congo is the most stolen from place on earth. And the people doing the stealing have never once stopped smiling.
And then you got whites who be like, I can, why are you saying that we're racist? You could stop being racist by, making deals with the Congolese people to get these resources, protect them from these warlords. Okay. That's what they could do. You want to stop being racist? Stop doing racist crap. That's it. It's what it is. But you don't want to do that because you come from you have a mindset of superiority, even though you're not superior. Because if you were superior, you wouldn't be going around stealing other people's resources. You would look at what you can do with the resources you have in your own country and provide for your own people. And if you do have to go outside your country to get resources, you make deals with people. You do not slaughter them. You do not steal from them. Pretty simple. Pretty simple.
Not saying I'm surprised that Joe Rogan was like that. I'm saying I'm surprised he was like that to his friend. He literally put Theo on the map, pretty much. He's just literally shooting him down. Like, you think they would have had a conversation before that, like, Theo, no bringing up Israel. So you know Theo brought that shit up on purpose. You know he did. Started trolling Joe on the show. Like, Theo knew what he was doing. And for everybody to say, like, they both knew what they were doing, I don't think they did. Because Joe was pretty, like, oh, yeah, cut you off. Let me cut you off right there. Let me cut you off, Theo. Let me talk about something totally different, not relevant at all. Why would it be part of the show that Joe Rogan's cutting Theo off? That's what I don't get that you guys are saying that I don't get. Like, I know why he's cutting him off, because he supports fucking Israel. I'm saying motherfucker should have supported his friend, or at least let him speak.
That's what happens when you support them. You're pretty much their slave.
Where were all Theo's questions when he interviewed the president? Damn, he got a chance too. Like, Joe wasn't the only one who interviewed him. Theo interviewed him too. Like, you get onto something here. Theo does kind of fucking, he's playing stupid.
It's just basically what it is. So now we're going to talk about how Trump got punked by Iran.
The situation is beginning to set in that, like, oh no, they don't want to be a vassal of the U.S. They don't want to be governed by the Epstein regime. They don't want to have, like, OnlyFans Tehran. They don't want Four Seasons Tehran. They don't want to be governed by the entity that just murdered 160 plus 7 to 10-year-old girls at an elementary school as they were showing up for school, right? Because yesterday, the U.S. reached out to Iran through Italy, suggesting that maybe there should be a ceasefire. Tehran said, no reason for us to talk right now. We reject the idea outright. I was so proven wrong. I was proven so wrong. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Iran war is going so well for Trump, you guys. Trump's actually taken the biggest... What? He doesn't look happy. Wait, what's going on? It's not going well? You're telling me it's not going well? Is that what you're saying? Wow. But I thought Trump said it was going to be like one and done, 2 days in and out, quick mission. You know, I thought it was going to be like I thought it was going to be like super chill and easy. Gee, did Fox News lie to us? Did CNN lie to? Wow. What? From the Financial Times, President Trump has no realistic plan for Iran's future. Shocking, ain't it? Shocking, ain't it? No. What do you mean no real? Of course Trump has the plan. Trump is like the most in touch with the Shia identity, the Shia revolution. He's more in touch with it than anyone else knows. I mean, he's got this all in the bag. He knows what he's doing, right, guys?
Trump's doing this for Israel, period. Okay, Trump's more, people want to say, oh, Trump is a Christian. He's more Muslim than he is Christian, man. He lies, okay? He lies out of his backside, okay? He follows Islam more than he will... He doesn't follow Christianity. He follows Islam to a T. The way he talks about women, lies to the American people on a mass scale, steals money. All right? He loves Islam than he will ever love Christianity. Just his actions show it.
Right, guys? 27% of Americans only support strikes on Iran. To put that in perspective, it was like 120% of Americans that were like in support of the Iraq war right after 9/11 happened. And then, well, now this is a much more difficult prospect than the Iraq war, and we don't even have a buildup of troops in the region, and only 27% of Americans think this is a good idea. Oh, and by the way, that poll was taken before it came out today. The U.S. reported that there was 8 U.S. casualties, 3 U.S. troop deaths, 5 injured, right? 3 dead U.S. troops today, 5 injured. 27% of Americans support strikes Iran, 43% oppose the strikes, which has led Donald Trump to, have his Jeb Bush moment where he says, that's when you're supposed to clap, right? He's saying, I'm entitled for one more term, right? You guys love me, right?
Maybe we do one more term. Should we do one more? Do one more term.
One more term of a pedophile. One more term of a man that basically doesn't give a damn about the rights of the people, American people. This man is a white supremacist, and he's running this country into the ground. He doesn't care about anybody but those billionaires. Basically it. I don't know when is it going to get to these people that's all he cares about, but who knows? Maybe when they all have to, scavenge through garbage cans for food. Maybe that's when they'll care.
Well, we're entitled to it because they cheated like hell in the second one. So we would actually be entitled to it.
Imagine talking about like being cheated in an election when he just kidnapped the president of Venezuela and airstrikes the leader of Iran. He's talking about he's like, well, the democracy in this country, it's really quite something. I was so cheated. Don't bring up Maduro. Don't bring up Khomeini. He's gonna get very uncomfortable.
The other party's signals. Are they open to a proposal? Are they just trying to stall for time? But occasionally, they send you an unmistakable rejection that hits like a missile. And in the case of the Iranians, it's a literal missile. The Iranians have basically given us their response to Trump's edits to the peace proposal, firing off a ballistic missile at an American base in Kuwait, wounding 5 soldiers and destroying a series of multi-million-dollar drones. This is an Iranian Fateh 110 missile, and the fact that it was just a single missile, not part of a drone strike package, is more of a message than a real effort to degrade the U.S. militarily. And the interesting part about using a ballistic missile is that it is itself the highest tier of strike package, right? Think of a Shahed drone, right, that costs less than a lot of used cars. Then you have cruise missiles. Then at the very top, you have ballistic missiles, which are hardest to intercept. This ballistic missile, of course, hit Ali Salim Air Base in embarrassing fashion, wounding multiple personnel and destroying, again, multi-million-dollar aviation assets. But what was it in response to is, I guess, the real question here. What would enrage the Iranians so much that they would actually fire on Ali Salim Air Base, effectively resuming the fighting? Well, the answer is that they had negotiated what they were told was a done deal, that both sides shook hands and smiled and said, yep, peace is in our time, until President Donald Trump himself read the deal and suddenly decided he needed to do some copy editing. He made a huge hardline shift during a Situation Room meeting where Trump proposed several changes that the U.S. and Iranian negotiators had already tentatively agreed upon. Now, this is hilarious for a couple of reasons. First, it implies that the negotiators didn't actually understand what the president was and was not willing to do, or that President Trump himself forgot what he had told the negotiators were his parameters previously. Generally, the way these negotiations work is not unlike negotiating with a car dealership. You sit down with a dealer on the opposite end of the table, and that dealer is empowered to offer terms within a certain breadth.
Trump just getting punked everywhere he goes. Just getting punked.
Historic fucking news for you today. So Iran officially comes out and says that they're suspending all negotiations for peace and that they're going to indefinitely block the Strait of Hormuz. And this is not some bluff, okay? This is not Trump flip-flopping on an issue. This is Iran who is about that action. And when they say something, they do it. And their sight and their reasoning for this, and I fucking called it. I literally called this shit multiple times, okay? I wish I was wrong about this, but I said, oh, Israel is sabotaging it by expanding into Lebanon further. Their main...
Of course they're sabotaging it. They're sabotaging it because they're the ones calling the shots. Trump is just the puppet. And if Trump tries to do something contrary to what they want, they're going to sabotage. They don't want peace with no country in the Middle East. They don't. They want the whole Middle East. That's what they want.
Right, or reasoning and source for stopping negotiations is they said, yeah, Israel's operations in Lebanon. So once again, because of Israel continuously attacking civilians in Lebanon, Iran is telling the USA, hey, USA and Iran, we won't have peace. And I called this shit. It's not hard to predict. Many of you will be like, well, Hunter, we knew that as well. Of course, it's not some rocket science thing, but why the hell are we still putting up with this? Okay, additionally,
we're putting up with this because of the fact of the matter is, like, we all have to work, we all have jobs, and we can't afford to protest. We can't afford to raise hell. The cost of living is at an all-time high. It's the truth. People, oh, we're cowards. Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's like, what are you going to do? Protest or go hungry? Protest, go to jail, your family is suffering. Okay? This is what it is. You got to escape America or just start prepping and building networks and finding ways to survive without harming other people. All right, Lloyd says Trump is the most demented, incompetent megalomaniac to ever sneak back into the Oval Office. Negotiations are going to blow up every time unless he somehow makes a few $1 billion personally. Well, that's what it is. It's left wing, right wing, same bird, man. Left wing, right wing, same bird. George Carlin said it best. It's a big club and we ain't in it. Okay, people hate hearing that it's both sides. They hate hearing it. I'm not saying don't vote, and it will behoove you to vote Republican. All right, if you're not, I'll say it again. If you're not white, you're not a white male and rich. You don't vote Republican. You don't. You vote Democrat. If you want to participate in voting, you're going to have to vote sensibly with, having unions. Yes, civil rights, protection for women. Public school has free lunch. Okay. Care for the elderly, because we do have an elderly crisis that we don't talk about. We have more elderly people than we have people being born that nobody talks about. These are the things that you would vote for if you're the common middle-class American. All right. Unfortunately, we're in a country that has been brainwashed to think that voting Republican is going to help you as a middle-class citizen or a poor person. All right. Sad to say, you have whites who vote Republican and you're middle class and you think the Republicans are going to care about you. No. They care about those billionaires. They care about people that's going to put money in their pockets. Poor people are not going to do that. Okay? And they literally keep the red states poor by design to have them poor and hungry and angry to keep voting Republican. Meanwhile, it's the blue states that are holding up the red states. I'm an old white Christian Republican. I have been for decades. I cannot and will not support the abomination Trump or his unqualified administration. Well, I'm a registered Republican myself. I did vote for Bush. I voted for Obama, and that was the last time I ever voted. Okay, I didn't really know about politics at the time. I voted for Bush because of 9/11. I voted for Obama because I wanted to see, a black person give reparations to black Americans. And then when he reneged on that, I was done with voting. That's it. I was done. Well, the thing is like Trump. Trump has a fascist regime, okay, and he's the leader, and the fascist, people under him those are the fall guys. There's a reason why he picked incompetent people. Okay, that's why you have Christine Noem got kicked out of Homeland Security. Stephen Miller is getting kicked out, and a host of other people. Pam Bondi. Okay, this is what they do. All right. Trump is following Hitler's playbook. He literally has a book called Mein Kampf. Everything he's done, and he's done everything that is in it. Okay. He's demonized minorities. Okay. Demonized, disrespected women. Basically, and he has his voice everywhere. And it's just the simple-minded people who will follow him. People who want to go back, and they say make America great again. They want to go back to racism. They want to go back to a pre-civil rights Jim Crow era. And this is what they're sacrificing for. They're for the war in Iran, even though Iran has fertilizer that you need for your farms. So many farmers lost their farms under Trump. So many, and there's been farmers who have unalived themselves. But this is what they want. Okay, I feel bad for you if you're a white Christian Republican, because you don't probably follow the toe. You don't follow the line. Okay. If you truly are a Christian, then you basically you're basically a target to them. As in back in the days of slavery, where they would kill whites who actually sided with slaves. It's like they killed John Brown. Okay. Ron DeSantis would say, I remember Ron DeSantis saying, we don't have any John Browns here. Texas literally changed the history books when it comes to African-American slavery, the slavery of blacks in this country. This is what they fought. This is what they're fighting for. This is the nightmare that is in them. I hate politics. Trump will fire you if you don't do his bidding. Yeah. I mean, look what he tried to do to Mike Pence. Look what happened, J6. Literally a lynch mob. Hang Mike Pence. Hang Mike Pence. Do you think you could do that in other countries? Do you think that they could do that? No. Be swinging from the gallows. Every last one of them from J6. All right? And Trump inspired that. He didn't say, you know what? Shame on you guys for trying to hang my vice president. You don't get to do that. Okay? The thing is like, I'm done with it because the fact that you got to understand that both sides, it's the same party. They're both on the side. They're both on the side of the country that is far away, that if a person commits a crime against a child, they could run there. I'm not going to tell you the name of that country, but we all know the name of that country. And they have free health care, free education. Okay? And they play like they're so godly and stuff, but there's a place there that starts with the letter T, and it's literally Sodom and Gomorrah over there. Literally. And they teach their kids at a young age to hate other people. I've seen videos where they're bashing the glass window of a bus, terrorizing a woman. Young kids doing that. Young little kids from a country where you could escape to, and they have this clause called the order of return. This is who they work for. These parties are corrupt. Don't get me wrong. If you want to vote, I understand you would vote Democrat. I understand of a person voting Democrat. But for me, I've had it. For me personally, I'm done. I could never give my heart and soul to a political party. And I'm not saying you are doing that by voting, but I'm saying for me to actually go out there, protest, and have hope, only to have it dashed, only to find out that you're just as bad as the people who want me enslaved, that would drive me insane. I would possibly turn into the Joker. Literally. And I would just bow out. That's why I choose not to vote. I'm not putting my heart and soul for a bunch of people that will screw me over.
United States bombed and struck Iran over the past few days. We're in for the long haul. And I've been calling that for a while. It's really discouraging, but I'm just giving you the updates in a passionate sense because it's like you feel like you're going crazy when you predict it, and then it comes true. And even though you knew this was going to happen, it's still like, damn, why can't we just have peace? Sorry for the...
That delusion. Why don't we have peace? You're not going to have peace with these people. Okay? You're not going to have peace. Stop asking for peace. I hate that. You're not having peace. If it was possible, we would have peace decades ago. The United States functions as a colonizing. The government follows a colonizer mindset. We're going to go over there. We're going to get your resources. If we do put up a deal, it's going to make sure that you're screwed over. We profit from it. And if you say no, we're going to put sanctions. We're going to put out propaganda. And we're going to hurt you. And we're going to take your resources anyway. And if we can't fight you militarily, we'll find a way to put up a puppet dictator. We'll raise somebody up to be some sort of freedom fighter, some man of the people or woman of the people, and we'll get you that way. Or we'll starve you out like we're doing to Cuba right now. This is the United States government.
Breaking news from Iran. Iran is having a stellar day. They took down and hit 2 airplanes and a Black Hawk helicopter. They downed an F-15, a Black Hawk rescue helicopter that was trying to do rescue efforts for the F-15, and an A-10 Warthog. The F-15 went down and both pilots ejected. One was rescued right away and the other a few hours later. And I read they are both unharmed. Iran did initially put a reward out for the capture of the pilot to the Iranian people, and they were actually out there looking. The A-10 Warthog went down near the Strait of Hormuz around the same time the F-15 went down. The pilot was also safely rescued, and the United States didn't provide any further details of the incidents. The Black Hawk helicopter was hit by gunfire, but landed without any major issues. This is a big game changer that Iran is hitting these planes. They've never been hit before. Iran's parliament speaker wrote on X today, and I quote, "After defeating Iran 37 times in a row, this brilliant no-strategy war they started has been downgraded from regime change."
He's not winning this. He's not. And Trump is held hostage. I think Trump is really. Trump is the hostage in this situation. He can get out. He can't back. A regular man, like, a man like Trump, I can imagine what it's like to have to just swallow his ego, just to swallow his ego. Every time Benny says something or he wants to do something, Benny just says, no, you're not going to do that. Or Benny will just be like, you know what? Yeah, Trump, you're going to do that. Then next, just does something completely to disrespect Trump in front of the world. And Trump just got to hold it in. Can't say nothing because he got those unredacted files. So you can't say nothing. Woo! Oh, there's some perks to him being president. The comedy never ends. All right, let's look into Joe Rogan's endorsement ruining his podcast for good.
Weasel than Joe Rogan. And what I mean when I say that is, basically his entire time doing the podcast, it's like he'll have on one.
No, he doesn't plan on leaving. He doesn't plan on leaving at all. People asked him, a reporter asked, are you going to be a dictator? Trump said no, only on day one. He also said, Christians, vote for me. If you do it, you'll never have to vote again. Christians, unfortunately, the white evangelicals, they're racist too, because anybody with a thinking brain who's really Christian be like, hold up. We live in a democracy, buddy. What are you talking about? We'll never have to vote again. Hold up. What are you talking about? But most of them, sad to say, they've been poisoned with this Christian nationalist mentality. It's like Islam. You're born into Islam. You're raised in it. If you dare question it, you could lose your life. Christian nationalism is white Islam. That's what it is. We're raised in a white Islamist country, with their own little Jesus, okay, that says being white is the best thing ever. Doesn't matter if you are hardworking, got morals, integrity, empathy. No, you're white, that's it. Okay? You're fed spoon-fed lies about this. You fought for independence. That never mind the fact that it was really a bunch of slave people who came from England who were oppressed, wanted to come over to another country and oppress other people. Get that? You came from Europe crying about oppression, and then you come to another country and oppress other people because they don't look like you. Ain't that something? And you were brainwashed and told, that is something great. That's great. Then you had the Civil War because you wanted to protect the right to eat, rape, sell, and make shoes out of human beings. Don't believe me? There's a book called The Delectable Negro. Get the book. I don't care if you're white, black, Chinese, or whatever. Get the book, Delectable Negro. You'll see what I'm talking about. You swear you were reading a book that was the inspiration of Chainsaw Massacre. Literal cannibalism. And this is what they voted for. This is it. And it's scary too, because you would hear about white women talk about their experiences growing up in these types of families, and it's just like, wow. And what they would teach them, and basically women are to be barefoot and pregnant. You don't have an agency of your own. All right. Yeah, I understand marriage. Don't get me wrong. I understand, that, but women are still human beings, just like men are still human beings. And this is what they were bred into. Okay. It's frightening. And the abuse that they've suffered. Wow.
Say one thing, they'll have on a guest with the opposite philosophy and say the other. Like, he'll agree with whoever he's sitting across from. He'll act like they're a genius. He'll act like they're making, points that can't be rebutted. But he'll flip back and forth. He'll agree with me, then he'll agree with Steven Crowder. He'll agree with, Abby Martin, then he'll agree with Ben Shapiro. And I don't know why he skated on it so long. He skated on it so long where people acted like, no, this is just like a centrist-y guy or a left-leaning guy, but like he's reasonable, he's objective, and he tries his best. No, he's a snake. That's what he is. He's a snake. Every time I hear shit like this, I want to take a fork and shove it directly in my eyeball, because every other week there's always somebody who clips out a portion of Rogan's show where they try to make it look like, oh look, bro, look, he's sort of like he's going after Trump a little bit, kind of, sort of, not really. Like, look, bro, look what he said here. So I have a great example from this week. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
He's made a fortune in this. They made a settlement with the IRS. I think that's why a lot of it came out recently. But like, he can't be charged with anything, or they can't be. The latest thing is that he and his kids and his company cannot be audited.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool. That's my settlement.
What was the settlement?
I noticed the laughing. Now, granted, he's laughing like, damn, that's sort of absurd, but he's laughing, right? Keep that in mind.
What was the IRS being sued for? What was the accusation?
It was for the leak of his tax returns.
Okay, so the IRS leaked his tax returns?
He said they were reckless and settlement of his $10 billion lawsuit.
2018 leak of his tax returns to the New York Times in the U.S. is forever barred and precluded from examining or prosecuting Trump, his sons, and the Trump Organization's current tax filings, according to one-page document released Tuesday. That is so crazy. Imagine like somebody accused you of murder, and it turns out you weren't guilty of that murder, and then you sue them, and you go, you can never prosecute me for murder again, and then you just go straight Uday Hussein.
Yeah, and they're like, it's cool.
So understand what happened here. Donald Trump sued his own IRS for, was it $100 billion, I believe? And his own IRS said, oh, no, sir, we don't want to fight this in court. We feel like we may lose. Let's just negotiate and settle out of court. And Trump ends up getting from his own IRS, his own government, 1.7 billion U.S. taxpayer dollars that he immediately puts in, his own little slush fund where he's going to disperse that money to his friends, to his family, and to January 6th terrorists and insurrectionists who assaulted cops and were pedophiles.
So that's basically it. I mean, Trump can't be audited by the IRS. He has immunity from the IRS, and he's going to take money and put it to pedophiles. You know, most of those J6ers were brought up on pedophile charges, right? Many of them got rearrested. This is America, all right? Majority, like I just said it before, majority of these states have their age of consent laws are like 14, 13, 16. America has had a pedophilia problem. This has been the United States for a while. And who else is also deep into pedophilia? That country that is far, far away, that has free health care and free education. All right? Real Americans vote for the country, not a bloated orange clown and his minions. Like crazy RFK Jr., Trump is doing his best to bypass, deny, or ignore the U.S. Constitution and U.S. laws. That's the thing. Real Americans are in the few. They're the minority, the ones that have common sense, that understand freedom of religion, freedom of the press, that a president has to abide by the Constitution, the laws of the land. But unfortunately, we don't live in that reality. We don't live in a reality where there's ideals, where there's people that actually respect law and order and respect the free will of human beings, not try to come into power, right, and want to take their faith and twist it and use it to legislate obedience, not to their God, but to their own version to oppress others. Okay, and it's the same thing with the Democrats. When they're in power, they will find a way to make it to a point where, you know, pedophilia will be normalized, and you will have minor attracted persons. There's been a movement, you could even see, Google TED Talks, where they will try to distance themselves from the word pedophile and put in minor attractive persons. Like I said, it's the same party. They just have it's just one party is in favor of the people. But we don't know how long that will last until they just want to say, you know what, we're tired of playing nice. We want to just reveal our true selves, and they'll go totally mask off. And then it's just basically it's a slave master to servant relationship. It's coming. It's coming. And we're, you know, like, I don't know if you guys heard about Curtis Yarvin, the Dark Enlightenment, that they're trying to have a feudal monarchy. That's what they want, where, you know, women are just being bred, you know, to bring out children for the farms or to work in company towns or to be fodder for billionaire wars. Even Curtis Yarvin has left America.
Okay, that's what he's doing. Also, as part of this, he's made it so that they can never audit him ever again for any reason whatsoever. So he basically just gave himself a green light to never pay taxes again and never get checked on his tax crimes again. That's what he did. Now, let me ask you a question. If it was Joe Biden that did this, or Barack Obama, or any Democratic president that did this, would Joe Rogan have sounded this calm in his reaction to it? Right? Would he have been, sort of laughing and like, that is kind of crazy, bro? But like, yeah, here's the thing, Joe. You're not fooling anybody, dog. You're not fooling anybody. Whatever your fucking little tepid criticisms every now and then of Trump, you get most passionate on your show when shitting on Democrats, still to this day. And we know why that is. We know it's because you're buddy-buddy with Dana White, who's also your boss. You're buddy-buddy with Donald Trump. You're buddy-buddy with J.D. Vance. You're buddy-buddy with Elon Musk. You're buddy-buddy with Peter Thiel. You're in that club. You're in the Epstein class. You're in that club. And so since Trump texts you, since Trump calls you, since Trump Jr. texts you, and Trump Jr. calls you,
Kyle uncovered the fraud in Minnesota in 2019 and no one cared. What do you expect? Told you, this is the government. This is how it is. They'll put out what you're supposed to care about. They'll put out what they want you to care about. It's basically it. And like he says, if there was Joe Biden or Barack Obama, Joe Rogan will be livid. But it's just showing that Joe Rogan is a white nationalist. He's racist. That's basically what it is. Trying to lie to this country is not racist. It is. That's the thing. It's okay. And people treat it like it's sports season, even with the Democrats, all right? They say, like, Trump is a murderer. Okay, what did Joe Biden do when he abandoned those American citizens in Afghanistan? What about that? Nobody talks about that. How about, just sending American troops on the ground in Ukraine? All right, to fight Russia. And that was just a slaughter. There was no way that was going to turn out well. And Joe Biden's supposed to be the president that's not supposed to be racist, but you're siding with Ukraine, a neo-Nazi country known for humans and weapons trafficking. United States, under the Biden administration, donated billions and upon billions to Ukraine. Meanwhile, we have vets that are suffering with mental illness and all types of stuff. We have a homeless problem. Okay? Fentanyl problem. But you want to help out neo-Nazis. Somebody like Zelensky, who's having interview with David Letterman while his soldiers are dying on the battlefield. You're having an interview while your soldiers are being slaughtered. We're cooked. Either way, we're cooked. And it's sad, but this is the reality. Trump loses lawsuit against E. Jean Carroll for Epstein activities and fails to weaponize the DOJ on victims. This is the type of man that is the model that represents the white men who voted for Trump. They don't want women to have rights. They don't want women to have a place to go to if they are assaulted. This is why he's taken away women's rights and has given it to the point that women can be attacked by men if a woman wants to have an abortion.
Because if we take a look right here, we see that he is sicking the DOJ against anybody who has ever sued him for what he's done to them. And in this case now, it is E. Jean Carroll who sued Donald Trump for sexual abuse and defamation, which Trump was ordered to pay her $88 million. He is now running an investigation on her. Mind you, this was granted back in 2023 and 2024. We have a president of the United States who is not only neglecting Epstein victims, the same person who is defending his friends from getting prosecuted for doing what they've done in the Epstein files. As he's told Marjorie Taylor Greene time and time again now, that Donald Trump puts billionaires before the people that actually need help. Donald Trump has shown through his actions that not only could he care less about what happened to Epstein survivors, but he is now actively seeking revenge for having to pay the consequences for what he has been found guilty of. Because this is one of 28 women that have accused Donald Trump of sexual and misconduct, to include the missing victims in the Epstein files that have reported Trump since the early 2000s, saying he threatened to unalive me and make me disappear, which many of those victims aren't here today. However, the people aren't having it, and CNN has a few words for Donald Trump, who we're going to get to in a second, because Trump gets called out for yet again neglecting hundreds of millions of Americans for his own personal pursuits of revenge. Just take a look at this clip. As Trump gets absolutely dismantled, this is the same man who last week said, "I do not care about the financial situations of Americans." Well, apparently he doesn't care about their safety either. And CNN breaks that down perfectly.
I mean, look, we're in the United States. There's hundreds of millions of people here. And yet the people that we keep hearing about, all of a sudden the DOJ is spending its time investigating E. Jean Carroll in her case with Donald Trump?
Yeah, so on a personal level, because of me coming forward almost 10 years ago now against Fox News for sexual harassment, I mean, this is very personal to me that the President of the United States would be coming after somebody who had the courage to come forward and say that something bad happened to them. As a nation, I think that every American should be just really pissed off tonight, because what the hell is the Department of Justice doing? What are they actually doing for the citizens of the United States of America? We are wasting time on cases that, according to legal experts, are not credible, all to fulfill the mission of one man called the President of the United States, who's on a retribution tour. I'm sorry, I'm angry about this. I'm angry about this, not really about the sexual nature of the alleged crime, but as an American. Like, what are we doing? What are our tax dollars paying for with this Department of Justice?
I have a perfect answer to that. Our tax dollars are paying for Iran wars to distract from the Epstein files and gain oil and more money and power for Donald Trump. To which Trump has said he's ready to go to World War III. As he said, Cuba's next and many other countries are next, but he cannot target them all at once because then he'd have to fight multiple countries, and we can't have that. He is spending money to making billionaires richer while the average working American has to suffer behind the scenes.
Sad to say, it is working. Okay, 90% of people have has worked by 90%. So people are distracted by the Iran-U.S. war and are not barely talking about the Epstein files. Sad to say.
As a shock to no one, Donald Trump is the most unpopular president since Nixon during Watergate, abysmally low. But I think we can do better. I think it can go even lower. Pop this up. Absolute disaster for the White House. Gallup data confirms Donald Trump's disapproval has collapsed to a staggering 63%. He officially tied Richard Nixon's Watergate era for the highest disapproval in history. The Trump administration faces total rejection. And here to discuss said rejection with me is Sawyer Hackett. He is a political strategist turned content creator with more than 15 years of experience advising campaigns and political organizations. Today, you can find him on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, breaking down the biggest stories and combining cooking and politics to reach new audiences. Sawyer, welcome to iHip News.
Great to be with you, Jennifer.
All right, what do you think about the disapproval rating of Donald Trump? I think we can do better.
I think we can definitely do better. I think, honestly, it feels like the Iran war is really the catalyst for a lot of people coming out of the woodwork with Trump. I mean, it seems like that has kind of coupled with a story about corruption that's really actually starting to reach people for the first time. I mean, it seems like, people like us have been kind of pulling our hair out for the first year of this administration, trying to figure out why voters aren't as pissed off as we are, aren't as, glued into the news, paying attention to what's going on. But it does seem like the Iran war really kind of shook people about what Trump is up to, what he's doing, kind of taking his corruption on the road in the Middle East. And really, it started to bring a lot more people into the fold for Democrats, for progressives, to kind of win some of these special elections around the country. So I think people are starting to wake up. But I agree, we can definitely bring those numbers down even more.
We can definitely do better, but I'm really starting to get a tad bit worried about some of the centrist/corporate Democrats. And I want to play a video for you from former Andrew Cuomo chief of staff, Melissa DeRosa. Play the clip.
No, absolutely. I mean, the main race really demonstrates the civil war that's happening within the Democratic Party. And there are a lot of Democrats, moderate Democrats like myself, who will not cry tears should we lose Maine. I mean, that would be a pickup to begin with. But
I don't know about you, Sawyer, but I'm from a state called Oklahoma. And a lot of humans, women in particular, are crying a lot of tears over Susan Collins' vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. And then, of course, we know it overturned Roe. If you're raped in Oklahoma, you have no rights. If you're molested, you have no rights. If you have a debilitating, life-threatening MAGA allies on, as a shock to no one.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I said it before. 36 Republicans in Oklahoma.
For a lot of people coming.
36 Republicans in Oklahoma voted against banning child marriage. Child marriage. That's why I say Christian nationalism and Islam is one and the same.
Chief of Staff, Melissa DeRosa. Play the clip.
They lose Maine. I mean, that would be a pickup to begin with, but
I don't know about you, Sawyer, but I'm from a state called Oklahoma, and a lot of humans, women in particular, are crying a lot of tears over Susan Collins' vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. And then, of course, we know it overturned Roe. If you're raped in Oklahoma, you have no rights. If you're molested, you have no rights. If you have a debilitating, life-threatening situation with your pregnancy, you have zero rights. You are subhuman as a woman in the state of Oklahoma. This is so offensive to me that I'm sure she sits in a blue state somewhere.
She's telling the God honest truth, because in Oklahoma there was a police officer and he was a serial rapist. Okay, he was raping black women. He was a white Oklahoma cop raping black women. You can look it up. He got decades in prison. And I think he was raping women who were drug addicts and with a lot of past offenses. That's why he got away with it for so long.
And talks like this about Susan Collins, because that's the other option there, is Susan Collins. So she might not be crying about it because Graham Plattner isn't all synced up with all of the pimps that she wants to prostitute the Democratic Party out to. But I can tell you, in the state of Oklahoma, education is 50th because of policies just like this.
I mean, this is insane. Melissa.
Now we're going to move on to the thugs behind badges, as we know as ICE.
Outside of the Delaney Hall Detention Center in New Jersey. And for those of you, if that name rings a bell, it should. That is the detention center, the immigrant detention center, I should say, where last year you had several Democratic members of Congress, along with Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, who were arrested by Donald Trump's Gestapo for allegedly impeding ICE agents when, in fact, they just wanted access to the facility that they're legally allowed to have access to. And the administration eventually dropped the charges against Baraka, but instead pursued them against Democratic Representative LaMonica McIver. So if Delaney Hall rings a bell, that's why. But yesterday, there were protests outside of Delaney Hall once again, as the immigrants being detained there have gone on a hunger strike due to the horrific treatment they are receiving as detainees. And Democratic Senator, U.S. Senator Andy Kim showed up there. And Andy Kim, obviously there on behalf of protesters, but things started to get a little rocky. So Kim decided he wanted both sides, the protesters and the ICE agents. Everybody step back and take a breath and let's calm down and let's not have this become a horrible thing. So he's standing in between the two with his arms raised, trying to get everyone to just calm down a bit. And he was then pepper sprayed by these Donald Trump brown shirts called ICE. A sitting United States senator pepper sprayed on camera by Donald Trump's masked thugs. Let me read you this. According to NJ.com, Kim had attempted to broker an agreement between agents and protesters to try to defuse the situation. At one point, agents started pushing the crowd back and began firing projectiles containing chemical irritants. The senator reportedly placed himself between the crowd.
Just get used to it. Get used to it.
A new law would force teachers to out their transgender students, which isn't just stupid, it's dangerous. There's often a reason why students don't tell their parents. They're afraid. Not everyone has cool, kind, supportive parents. Some parents are abusive. And the amount of horror stories I've heard from people after coming out truly breaks my heart. In fact, 73% of transgender teens report psychological abuse, 39% report physical abuse, and 26% report being homeless after coming out to their parents. So, is it worth it? Teachers, would you send a student home to abuse to follow the law?
Once again, this is the Republicans trying to harm kids. They don't care about kids. They don't care about kids. I'm not for the alternative lifestyle being pushed on kids either. I'm not for the grooming. Okay? I'm not for that. That's just wrong. Kids should be kids. The left gets it wrong when they want to make books about alternative lifestyle sexual activities, and you want to put that in front of a child. Okay? That's wrong.
The fact that 198 of these lawmakers said no to passing this bill tells me everything I need to know. It tells me that 198 of y'all got serious mental issues.
This vote, the yeas are 217, the nays are 198. The bill is passed without objection. A motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The bill is called Stopping Indoctrination and Protecting Kids Act. It passed 217 to 198. Shout out to the 217 lawmakers that have common sense. To the 198 lawmakers who said no, you need a straitjacket. If y'all don't believe me, go look it up. This bill is called the HR 2616, which if signed into law will require public elementary and middle schools that receive federal funding to obtain parental consent.
This is what I'm saying. What are you doing introducing this lifestyle to middle schoolers? Middle schoolers know nothing about being in a same-sex relationship. This is why I say both sides are wrong here. The left is wrong for introducing this a lifestyle to children. They are not adults. They are children. And the right wants to put kids in a position where the parents could harm these kids. Unfortunately, you got a lot of ignorant parents out there that they would kick the kid out instead of sitting them down and like, where did you hear about this same-sex lifestyle stuff? Okay. We're at school. Okay, well, we're going to tell you the truth that that we don't agree with it and it's unhealthy. Okay? Not every parent is like that. So I'm saying you got both sides here that are just vile and evil when it comes to a lot of things. The left thinks they have the right to parent your child when all the teachers are supposed to be doing from middle school all the way up to the 12th grade is teaching the kids about education. That's it. That is it. Not telling them about, curious about their feelings and wanting to try to push them into, well, if you feel that way about this same-sex person, you should act on it. No. Stick to your job function, which is to teach them about math and whatever is being taught in school that is conducive to education. Not this. This should be left up to the parents.
Before changing a student's gender markers, pronouns, or preferred names on school records, or allowing access to gender-based facilities.
Okay, pronouns. What? These are middle schoolers, young kids. What do they need to know about pronouns for when it comes to this? Aside from the fact that they're him, her, and she, her. Those are the only pronouns they should be knowing at this time. In this time of their mental development. That's it. Nothing else. When they're 21, let them explore on their own, not being groomed. And it's being groomed because you're introducing this type of behavior to children. To children.
Such as locker rooms and bathrooms. Now, all Republicans were in support, but only a handful of Democrats. A handful says a lot. You think it's common sense that a parent should not be misled or lied to by a school that the parent is entrusting their child with. But
no, look, Wait, leave the kids alone. Stop introducing stuff that they don't understand. That's it. And these are the same people who will ask you, well, why do straight men won't date a trans woman? This is why they're doing this. They're doing this because transformer women can't get dates. So what they're going to do, they're going to go after the kids when they're young to groom them to like trans women, transformer women. That's the game right there. That is the gameplay right there. Now we're going to be talking about James Dobson and the Epstein files.
Latest release of files in the Epstein case shows that Epstein sent an article by James Dobson to someone whose name is redacted. It's presumably a young woman who was seeking relationship advice from Jeffrey Epstein about how to deal with her father, whom she says she holds a lot of anger for. Why would Epstein have been recommending advice from someone like Dobson, who founded Focus on the Family, who's one of the most important voices in the conservative evangelical world when it comes to raising and training children, childhood, and probably much of yours if you grew up in the conservative, evangelical, or homeschooling worlds? Well, all of the advice that Dobson offers up in that article is about forgiving your abuser, your father. Dobson advises this daughter who's writing into him about all of this different hurt that her father has inflicted upon her to instead put herself into his position, to think of him as someone who's had harm done to him as well. Dobson places the responsibility on the daughter to forgive rather than on the father to ask for forgiveness or in any way change his behavior. This is consistent with the type of advice that Dobson gave to parents about how to raise their children, particularly their daughters. Over on my Substack, which you can find at the link in my bio, I just broke down Dobson's book, Bringing Up Girls. You can head there if you want to read this more thoroughly, but I just want to share one very important piece of this with you. So D.L. Mayfield, who I will tag below, has done a lot of incredible work around Dobson, specifically breaking down Dobson's involvement with the Meese Commission on Pornography in 1985. That was a report commissioned under the Reagan administration to figure out how pornography should be regulated. Dobson was very interested in being involved in this commission because he was convinced that pornography was essentially the largest reason why people were turning to more violent crimes and crimes against children. Of course, that's not what the Meese Commission ended up finding, and the many, many experts who testified showed that actually we know who the people are who commit crimes against children. They're typically male relatives, like a father, a stepfather, or another close male relative. They're not shadowy figures waiting in vans, they're not lurking in pizza parlors, they're not hiding in chat rooms. They are typically family members. So Dobson knows all of this, right? He gets all of this information from the Meese Commission. And then what does he do? He turns around and a couple of decades later, he writes Bringing Up Girls. In Bringing Up Girls, he specifically warns parents that the dangers of internet pornography are causing an increase in violent crimes against children, which again, he knows and we know is not actually the biggest contributing factor. He tells parents in Bringing Up Girls that they need to raise their daughters to look out for any outside influences that could be trying to lure.
Now, here's the thing, right? I do believe in, like, yeah, you do have to forgive, because unforgiveness is like drinking poison and unforgiveness is like drinking poison, hoping the person that offended you dies. Now, with that being said, okay, James Dobson, okay, what he's saying here, trying to take off responsibility of the abuser and to victimize the abused, because that's what it's really coming off as, is the reason why most people have left the church. Most people left the church because of this. Okay? And many people have a hostility towards white evangelical Christianity for this reason. Because a lot of them hide pedos and abusers. That's just the truth. Okay? Plain and simple. Now, when you talk about pornography, yeah, science has proven that pornography does damage the brain, and it does lead to the pathway of becoming a serial killer, just like Ted Bundy.
Them away. He tells parents to take no unnecessary chances, whether during sleepovers, in the mall, in public restrooms, in neighbors' houses, or on the way home from school. But what he doesn't say is to look within the walls of the house itself. No, that's the place where he knew the most danger would often reside. And in that same chapter in Bringing Up Girls, he tells parents that he wants to make sure that they are not raising their children to fear their loved ones or think that their loved ones might be out to hurt them. And the real kicker to me is that he even concludes this section by answering a query from a parent who worries that her daughter is too people-pleasing. And Dobson says this verbatim: "My goodness, what a delightful problem to have. I see no need to do anything about it. Your daughter obviously came equipped from birth with a compliant temperament. Throughout childhood, these kids will be called..."
That's a bad idea. If your child is a people pleaser, you have to toughen them up to make sure they're not a people pleaser. Okay? I would say try to put them in sports where they can't be a people pleaser, that they have to push back, that they have to be aggressive, because life is a jungle. That's just the facts. Okay? I can understand why people are not Christians. I can understand why some people have a hostility towards Christianity, because if they may have grown up in these types of environments, and it sucks.
I searched for James Dobson in the Epstein files, so you don't have to. And yeah, I found him. He's in there. Maybe not in the ways you were expecting, but I think it's still a really big deal, and I'll explain why. When you search James Dobson on the Department of Justice website for the Epstein files, what comes up is this text exchange between Jeffrey Epstein, who's the blue, and some unnamed redacted person who I'm assuming is an underage girl knowing Jeffrey Epstein. Basically, they're texting about her coming and how she was really nice to this guy with a little dick, and how she also complained about her father, which really offended Jeffrey. And so he basically is telling her she needs to forgive her dad, and he sends her a James Dobson article on why you need to forgive your abusive father. Here's a jump scare for James Dobson's face in the Epstein files. Now, this is a big deal because Epstein, who is not a Christian, is sending James Dobson articles on forgiving abusive fathers to at least one of the girls he groomed and abused. And I think that's a really huge deal. I've been working on a series for several months about how Dobson's parenting materials seem to attract and cater to serial child predators. And forgiving abusers is a huge part of the equation, because serial child predators, not only do they want to abuse as many people as they can, they want to get away with it. And patriarchal white supremacist Christianity gives them a great place to do that. One of the other weird things is that one of the people who was on the Meese Commission on Pornography with James Dobson, where, you know, they were taught a ton about how to spot a pedophile, how to keep kids safe, and they also looked at a lot of CSAM. Well, that guy shows up in the Epstein files. He's a psychotherapist named Park Dietz. He ends up testifying on behalf of Ghislaine Maxwell that there's no way she could be grooming victims.
And unfortunately, within the church, is the fact that there's forgiveness, but there's no accountability. Okay? That's the issue. There's no accountability. The person who does it, they don't lose their title being pastor. They don't get kicked out the church. They don't get removed from fellowship. There's no accountability. And that's the reason why that's why it's a haven for pedophiles and other types of crimes.
Because there's no such thing as grooming by proxy, and that is actually really dangerous to conflate being nice to young, vulnerable children with grooming practices of pedophiles. So again, I have proof that Park Dietz learned the exact opposite of this in 1985, along with James Dobson and a known pedophile known as Father Bruce Ritter, who was later outed. So that's 3 people on this one commission in 1985 who learned a ton about pedophiles and then used their knowledge for evil.
If only Frank Castle was real. That's all I gotta say. If only Frank Castle was real. Let's talk about how Trump's name was taken off the John F. Kennedy Memorial Center, shall we?
Because we had no trust in that.
President Trump just 2 weeks to take his name off the Kennedy Center. The president responded to this ruling against his takeover of the performing arts facility with a lengthy Truth Social post attacking the judge and announcing he would be handing control of the center over to Congress. Joining me now is one of the people at the center of this legal fight, Ohio Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, who sued as a Kennedy Center board member. Congresswoman, you sit on the Kennedy Center board, and you were part of the legal fight challenging the Trump-backed renaming and shutdown plan. What's your reaction to these latest developments?
Well, first of all, thank you, Reverend Al, for having me on this show. The Kennedy Center belongs to the American people and not to Donald Trump. And it was created, as you know, by the Congress for President John F. Kennedy to have the only living memorial of the president after he was assassinated. And I brought that lawsuit because silence was not an option. And the Kennedy Center is a sacred memorial. It's not a vanity project for Donald Trump. So I feel honored and rejuvenated that we fought hard with a great legal team and we won. And that's the biggest thing. Donald Trump's name, he has 14 days to take his name down. He has to also remove it from the website. And we also had another victory that he cannot shut down the Kennedy Center for the 2 years that he had proposed because we had no trust in that.
The thing is like, what has he done to earn anything to be on, to have these things? You want the Nobel Peace Prize, but you went to war with Venezuela. You going to war with Iran. You ran on no new wars, but you're starting wars with 2 countries already, and you're starving the people of Cuba. You're just like every other president. And that's why people say, well, he comes in there, he's going to, wreck shop, and he's going to make America great again. First off, you don't get into the White House unless you are corrupt. You do not get in unless you are corrupt. Okay? And if you try to be a person that's going to if you try to be actually a hero, you will end up in a coffin, just like JFK. Because JFK tried to straighten out a country from far, far away that has free health care and free health insurance. And what happened to him? That's right. That's right.
Yeah, a United States District Judge ruled that the Trump name has to come off the Kennedy Center. But do you think that President Donald Trump is going to listen to a judge? In this order, he's going to rush. He's going to say, oh, we got to hurry up and get that down in 2 weeks. Good for the judge, because President Donald Trump did break the law, and it did not go in front of Congress. And the judge says that that's exactly what happened, and that's why it was a ruling, and a fair ruling like he gave. But how many people really think President Donald Trump's going to remove it? This administration, and especially Trump, has a history of defying court orders. And in his mind, it's, I'm the president of the United States. Who is he to tell me? That is the mentality of President Donald Trump. And what else does that remind you of? Let me know what your thoughts are in the chat. Do you really think that he's going to go and take the letters off and abide by the law like everybody else is supposed to? Or do you think he's going to drag this out again? But at the end of the day,
he's going to drag it out. He's going to drag it out because he wants his name everywhere. That man has an ego the size of Texas. He's going to drag it on. Look up how JFK was treating Israel. Look how he was treating them. That's why he got what he got. He dared to put regulations. Okay, we're going to be talking about this right now. Let's see. Yep.
A senior Gates Foundation insider has just come forward, absolutely furious, raging, and sick to his stomach, that the entire world is about to fall for the exact same trick twice. He says Bill Gates and his inner circle have known about this man-made Ebola pandemic for years, because, in his words, they effing designed it. He says the most evil pandemic plan since COVID was perfected in secret labs and is now in its final activation phase. The lethal strain has already been seeded in major US cities over buddies in perfect detail. Then, right on cue, it's all unfolded exactly as scripted. Then there's the stock market magic. He dumped his massive holdings in COVID vaccine companies right before the public woke up to the scam, and somehow timed it perfectly to pour those profits straight into cancer treatment centers, just as turbo cancer started exploding around the world after the rollout. What's a coincidence? The man doesn't just predict the future, he seems to, which should cause serious alarm. Because in recent months he's been laughing uncontrollably, just like Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, while warning of imminent bioterrorism attacks.
Bill Gates consistently, he keeps going on podcasts warning there will be another pandemic, and he says this time it's going to be a bioterror attack.
So I'd probably put bioterror, which is a really awful.
So they're going to admit it comes from a lab this time.
This is crazy. This is. He's not even a doctor. This is what we're dealing with right now. This is what we're dealing with right now. And he's been to the White House a couple of months ago. Bill Gates.
And now he's done it again. A brand new man-made Ebola strain with an experimental vaccine in warp speed preparation, timed exactly when the outbreak will hit, long before a single official case has been announced. Funny how that keeps happening, isn't it?
You can't even make this up. So CEPI, co-founded by the Gates Foundation, by the way, gave Moderna and the University of Oxford 4 months ago $26 million to develop mRNA and viral vector injections against the Bujo strain, the same strain now in the Congo outbreak, the new outbreak. So 4 months ago, they began developing these genetic-based injections for that very strain.
A network of basement biolabs with mysterious funding sources has been busted all over the United States in recent months. Biolabs staffed by Israelis and Chinese nationals. Illegal biolabs caught with deadly pathogens, humanized mice, and, wait for it, weaponized Ebola.
Video revealing the hundreds of samples collected in vials and jugs. Days later, police identifying this man, Ori Solomon, as the property manager.
We have no knowledge that he had any expertise or is in that area, or he's somewhat of a trained biologist, no.
Court records obtained by Channel 13 show he's an Israeli citizen here on a non-immigrant visa. Authorities say he works for a Chinese citizen who goes by the alias David Herr, who owns the home on Sugar Springs Drive. Herr is in a California jail charged following a 2023 investigation of an alleged illegal biolab in Reedley, California. Investigators say much of what was found in that Fresno warehouse is consistent with materials found in the lab in Las Vegas.
Keep a close eye on the fate of Ori Solomon. Will he face justice? Or will he be mysteriously whisked away to Israel, where America's supposed ally will shield him from prosecution? He wouldn't be the first. From the dancing Israelis to the Israeli cybersecurity official busted in Las Vegas. The list is as long as it is shameless. And let's not forget the crew at Israel's Bar Ilan University. Add them to the list. Years before COVID ever appeared, these scientists were already working hand in glove with Pfizer and Bill Gates to develop the mRNA platform. Professor Ido Bachelet openly described their creation as nanotechnology, a system designed to enter your body and dump payloads of nanorobots and engineered viruses directly into your cells. They didn't hide it. They bragged about it. This wasn't a vaccine. It was a delivery system. Watch this footage from a secret conference in 2013. It's important, because coming up, A Gates Foundation insider warns this is exactly what is happening as we speak.
So this syringe has inside it 1,000 billion robots. So these robots are each 50 nanometers long, which you can, as you can see in this slide under the microscope. 50 nanometers is about 2,000 times thinner than the thickness of your hair. Okay, and these robots were born actually 3 years ago in a research I did with Sean Douglas, now a UCSF professor. But over the past year and a half, in my group at Bar-Ilan University, we've been developing and testing robots for a variety of medical and therapeutic tasks.
Then Bachelet's admitting whoever is controlling these robots can turn them on and off with the flick of a switch and release payloads into human bodies. Yes, you heard correctly.
Virtually any function that molecules can carry out can be loaded into the nanobot, and the nanobot can be programmed to turn on and off these functions at certain places and at certain times. This is how it controls molecules. And so this particular nanorobot is in an off state. It's closed. It securely sequesters anything you put, any payload you put inside, so it's not accessible to the outside of the robot. For example, it cannot engage target cells or target tissues. But we can program the nanobot to switch to an on state.
Immune systems have been destroyed by the mRNA gene therapy injections, and now payloads are being pre-released into bodies in preparation for the giant Ebola explosion.
Wild. America's not a racist nation, right? Minnesota Republicans hold moment of silence for Derek Chauvin, who murdered George Floyd.
Had their annual convention this week. So the Minnesota Republican Party had their annual convention this week, and they held a moment of silence for Derek Chauvin. If you don't know who Derek Chauvin is, he's the man currently serving decades in prison for murdering George Floyd. There has been a tremendous push on the right to try to pardon Derek Chauvin. They say that he did not murder George Floyd despite him being found guilty, and despite the world seeing the horrific video of him murdering George Floyd. And so Chauvin is currently serving decades behind bars. He has both federal prison time and state prison time. And well, if Donald Trump pardons the federal charges, he still has state prison time. But this week, Minnesota Republicans at their annual convention decided to hold a moment of silence for him. A moment of silence for a man who murdered George Floyd. A murderer. They held a moment of silence for a murderer, and not many people are talking about it. Spread the word. I'll have more.
That's insane. I mean, Derek Chauvin literally murdered George Floyd. And the fact that you have people arguing about this, even with the testimony, court testimony, white people arguing about this, you know this country's racist. Especially, you know, and you're like, oh, he was a criminal, he was a criminal. Okay, when we talk about Ashley Babbitt, how she was a criminal, okay, running with riders on January 6th, and how she disobeyed a cop's command, a black cop's command, Michael Byrd, and she was shot. All of a sudden, he's a murderer. The death threats. But he was following the law. He was obeying the law. No one thinks about Ashley Babbitt and says, why didn't she comply with the officer? Okay, if she wasn't committing crime, nothing would happen. No one's saying those talking points. This is how you know this country's racist. Built on a racial caste system. That only white people are the ones that are supposed to be on top when they commit crime or anything. When it's a black person doing their job and stopping a white criminal, oh, hell no, we can't have that. Tucker Carlson was saying Ashley Babbitt was murdered. No, she wasn't. She was a criminal. Donald Trump, the same thing. Saying that. Hold on.
So the latest mission of the Republicans on the right is trying to get the Minneapolis police officer, Derek Chauvin, pardoned for murdering George Floyd. He was convicted by a jury of his peers. We all saw the video. We all saw George Floyd grasping for air and asking for his mom, and then eventually dying, all on camera. And Derek Chauvin, whatever his name is, did nothing. In fact, just straight up murdered him live on video. And Ben Shapiro now is on a mission to try to get him pardoned. And my question is, why? Why do you want a guy who is convicted of murder and convicted of hate crimes as well to be let off?
And the thing is like with Derek Chauvin, George Floyd is the second person that he did this to. The second person. The first person was a Hispanic teenager. And luckily he got away. So Derek Chauvin has a history of being pretty much a turd. And now he's in prison. He got stabbed. There's a lot of other things that happened to him that I won't talk about. But he's living through pure hell in prison, a hell that he has earned. Nonetheless. And people who have sense, they should be fighting against Derek Chauvin being released. Make sure he is serving federal and state time. If Ben Shapiro is trying to make sure he's free, then we should be able to make sure that Derek Chauvin serves both state and federal time. Ben Shapiro trying to pull this foolishness, we have to stop Ben Shapiro by calling any political representative that we can to make sure that Derek Chauvin stays in prison. And let that be a lesson to any cop that wants to be a criminal and a white supremacist behind a badge.
And the reason is, and this is something that a lot of our friends of color have told us, but not enough people who look like me say, is that they don't want a white police officer to be held accountable for any of their actions, especially against a person of color, like George Floyd was. There is no other way that you could explain this. We saw the video. We saw him get murdered over essentially nothing. And they want to let him go anyways, because they don't think that people that look like me should be held accountable for doing things to people who look like George Floyd. And it's time for more people who look like me to speak up and say it. We all know it's there. We all know it's real, but we have to keep talking about it. But we can't rely on people of color having to scream and yell about it, which they've been doing for hundreds of years. It's on us now, guys. It's time for us to step.
That's the thing. Okay. And then you wonder why that that white men make up 29% of the population, but commit over 60% of the crimes, 60% of the arrests, okay, and have filled up the prison systems. You make it the majority of mass shooters, serial killers, serial rapists, white collar crime, okay, mental health statistics, okay, poverty, thinking everything should be handed to you because you're white. Okay? So, for those of you who say, well, he doesn't deserve, Derek Chauvin doesn't deserve to be in prison, you just remember that you're the problem. You're perpetuating the cycle of white supremacy and white male violence against people, especially against your own. Because what do you think you have when you have a society that tells people that they're not accountable for their crimes because they are white? You raise a nation of psychopaths. That is what you have. And you wonder why people hate you. You wonder why people don't want you around. You wonder why you have all these other minorities waking up and calling out the sins of not only your ancestors, but the sins of what you all are doing today. And then you all have the audacity to get mad at white people who see the truth and call it out. Because it's white supremacy hurts everyone. Now let's talk about AI's Albania minister who claims to be pregnant with 83 babies.
Small Balkan nation. They have a minister named Diela. She's currently pregnant and she's set to deliver 83 babies. 83. Says who? Their prime minister. If that's a little alarming or unbelievable, wait till you hear this. Diela is not human She is an AI minister, and yes, she is giving birth to 83 so-called children, 83 virtual babies. If you thought 2025 couldn't get any stranger, well, think again, because apparently even female robots can't escape the pressure to do it all. So how did we get here? Our story began in January this year. Albania introduced Diela to the world. She is a text and voice-based chatbot.
Wild. And then, let me finish this off first before I start talking.
The country of Albania just put an AI in their government. And now they're saying she's pregnant. And according to the prime minister, she's having 83 kids. Each of these AI kids will be assigned to a member of parliament to record and summarize meetings, to give alerts, maybe give some advice, which is obviously not a good idea. When are people going to realize that, number one, AIs are not smarter than us and they're not unbiased. They make mistakes all the time.
They're not smart. AI is not smart. I put in prompts, and I have to put in prompt after prompt after putting in the first prompt, and they couldn't get that right. So I had to keep typing in the prompt. AI is dumb. AI is not smart. I don't know where people be saying that they're smart. Okay? It's not. Okay? And people like Elon Musk and other people are trying to, praise AI. It's not smart. It is very dumb.
The time, and they're very heavily influenced by what you put in their training data. Also, who got the AI pregnant 83 times? Carter here.
Oh, man. So as I was saying, right? Like, you got men out here saying the AI bot, right? Like, having a robot girlfriend, artificial intelligence, that's going to replace women. It's not going to replace women. Is this going to keep incels and MGTOW people at bay who don't want to go through the pain, trial, and error of actually, interacting with women, failing, trying again, failing, trying again, failing, trying again, and actually getting a W, because that's what human interaction is about. Okay? And AI is used to replace that. They're putting it to replace that, like having a female robot. I mean, you're not even having sex with the robot. You're masturbating to a bunch of fibers and pixels. That's what you're doing. There's no difference between you doing this with a female robot and gooning on a pixel on a screen. No difference. And this is what some men are saying, that, this was going to replace the woman. All they're doing is just normalizing gooners in public. That's what it is. You walking around with a cybernetic woman, a cybernetic robot, you're just a gooner in public. You're kissing you're kissing fibers and bolts. That's what you're doing. What is that? Women are not going to be threatened. Okay? They're just going to laugh at you. It doesn't make any sense, really. It doesn't. To be honest, it's just a delusion that they're selling to you. She'll never argue with you, never complain. You want a slave. And don't get me wrong, you'll have robots for women too. He'll never call me out on my nonsense. I could go to the clubs and not have to worry about answering to him when I come home. This is basically geared towards people who hate relationships. They want the benefits of a relationship, but they don't want the responsibility. And people are capitalizing on it. That's it. They're monetizing people who hate relationships. They just want the benefits of it. That's it. I just gonna wonder what's what's the fee gonna be to maintain these robots. That's what I want to know. What happens when you can't pay the fee? Because these things are going to be expensive. That's all I'm saying. Now let's talk about China's social credit system. Something that's coming soon to us.
Something the government doesn't like, jaywalk, miss a bill, payment, post the wrong opinion online, and your score drops. Low scores mean you lose access. Can't buy train tickets, can't get loans, your kids can't go to certain schools. Most people in the West heard about that and said that could never happen here. In my near future thriller, Sawyer's Reach the Battle for Tomorrow, Zevra calls it Unity Rewards. You earn points for positive contributions to the community. You lose points if someone reports that you looked unhappy in public. You get bonus credits for reporting your neighbors, and people are excited to do it because the rewards are real.
Do you remember what it was like in the pandemic if you were caught not social distancing and your neighbors were reporting you? How many of you remember that when we were going through the pandemic? I do. This is what's happening. And you have some people who think that China is a great place to live, not understanding that you have this to deal with. Imagine you having a conversation with somebody and you get arrested because you were saying things that hurt your credit score, and you found out the reason why this all happened because your neighbor snitched on you. And you can't do anything about it because that will even get you in more trouble. Think about that. This is basically Nazi Germany. People don't understand. This is digitized Nazi Germany tactics.
And the punishment for a low score is losing water for a day. Orwell called this thought crime. He imagined it coming from a government. What he missed is that the most effective loyalty systems are the ones people choose to participate in. You don't need a gun to control people. You need to make compliance rewarding enough. That's the part that keeps me up at night. Social credit score. Do something the government.
That's it. People will turn on you. Oh, I'm going to get rewarded for turning in this people? For saying something they shouldn't be saying? Do you know how petrifying that must be to live in China and you can't really say what you want to say? You can't really have a conversation, an honest dialogue with somebody because you're afraid they're going to snitch on you. Imagine being with a girlfriend and you want to break up with her, or you're with a boyfriend, you want to break up with him. Girl boyfriend relationship, boyfriend girlfriend relationship, and you're afraid of breaking up with them because you're afraid they may have taken notes in every deep conversation that you have said that might hurt your credit score and get you arrested. Imagine living that way.
Western nations frame China as the enemy. So why are they building identical systems?
What do you mean, identical?
Cloudwalk technology.
Let's not forget Joe Biden was also for the social credit system. Remember that. He liked that. Okay, like I said, left wing, right wing, same damn bird.
Chinese facial recognition company sold to African nations. Now watch. EU makes biometric IDs mandatory December 2026. UK runs facial recognition live in London. India's Aadhaar system processes billions of biometric verifications.
Same companies building this?
Same companies, same infrastructure, both sides.
The Western governments wouldn't call it surveillance. So what do they call it?
Climate targets. C40 cities. 16 kilograms meat per year by 2030, down from 58 kilograms. 3 new clothing items. Digital ID links identity. Facial recognition logs location. Apps track every purchase. Different branding, identical infrastructure.
That sounds like China's social credit system.
It is. Oxford, England. 100 trips maximum outside your zone per year. Already enforced. The infrastructure matches perfectly.
Okay, but when people exceed their carbon limits.
Look at the current Current pattern, UK. Thousands arrested annually for social media posts. Documented arrests for online speech. Western systems already punish behavior. They're already implementing China's enforcement model.
Wait, these are supposed to be adversarial nations.
Adversarial nations. Identical systems. China made it visible in 2014. Now it's appearing everywhere under different brands. Climate, safety, public health.
So, the infrastructure is
identical. The tracking is identical. The question isn't if enforcement follows.
It's when.
And the timelines.
That's what I'm saying, man. So people want to be like, yeah, man, this is great. We could remember when Red Note came out? I'm gonna show you something about Red Note soon. Okay, I'll show you about that. Hold on. Nah, I won't talk about this. Talk about it over here. We'll get to Red Note soon. I'm going to talk to you about China buying up the U.S. meat processing plants. It's supposed to be enemies, but they're buying up the meat processing plants. I remember I covered this years ago on my other channel.
80% of the meat processing in this country is owned by foreign entities that have some very close ties to China, the Brazilians, for instance. So what do? They pass all these crazy laws saying, oh, we want safety, and they don't allow the farmers to sell across state lines. And who supports that? Big agriculture. And so what do? They consolidate it. They drive everybody out of business, and then they're the ones running the show. We've got a foreign entity controlling our meat processing in this country, Laura.
Yeah.
That to me is a strategic move. It's like Belt and the Road Initiative with the Chinese. They're involved in it, and we better wake up.
Our toll roads are owned by Chinese companies. When you're paying tolls.
Oh, gosh. You got me going here. I passed a law in Tennessee. They started this toll road thing, and that scares me. I don't like anybody controlling I ride motorcycles and cars and trucks, and I'm big on that. And I passed a law in Tennessee that...
How many of you know that the Chinese have a police station in New York? Their very own police station. Bet nobody really knew about that, huh?
I found out that these were foreign-owned entities. So I said, all right, I don't want them being owned by foreign countries, because in wartime, that's why we didn't allow radio stations back in the day in the Second World War to be owned by anybody outside the United States, and that was a good law.
That's
because
right.
You didn't want the Germans, the Russians, or any Japanese, or anybody having any influence. Well, guess what? The first thing they did when they passed the toll roads in Tennessee, this past a couple of legislators, guess what? They said you can be a foreign entity and own them. If they can say, you can't ride on our roads, we're doing construction, you can't, the Chinese are masters at that. The Chinese are masters at manipulating us. Ma'am, they're on a 1,000-year plane, and again, we want our pizzas in 30 minutes or less, and that's about our attention span.
Sad to say. But America could be that way, but the problem is that the ones that are in control, they want us dumb. And the ones who can think for themselves and see what's coming, they call us conspiracy theorists, they call us crazy, alarmists, fear mongers, okay? Oh, you're talking about it's both sides. Oh, look at these conspiracy people, That's how they win.
China buying more American beef and soybeans, right? The big Trump summit, we saw it. But the real story is a country we don't talk about very often, and that's Brazil, okay? That's the play. What is Brazil going to do? When China buys more from American farmers, Brazil does not disappear. They redirect. That means soybeans, beef, wheat, corn, other farm products start moving around the globe like a giant game of musical chairs. So this is why farming is not just tractors and weather. It's politics, it's trade, it's beef, it's beans, it's countries trying to outmaneuver each other and win at your dinner table. So what do you think Brazil is going to do?
This is what we're dealing with. This is what we are dealing with right now. And I've known this about, years ago. I deleted the channel at the time. I gave up on YouTube at the time. I didn't think we were really going to make it. They've been buying up farm meat processing plants farmland, doing the same thing Bill Gates is doing with the farmland. And also, the Chinese government has a lot of they have their hands in a lot of stuff. Okay, going over to Africa, building their own hospitals where only the Chinese could be there, beating up their black workers, impregnating black women and leaving them, making them single mothers. China is, the Chinese government is just as corrupt as the United States, except they're more advanced with their corruption. A lot of people say like, oh, they're not communists. Yes, they are. It's just the fact that everything is under tighter control. You have surveillance, okay, and you have a social credit system where if you say something even bad about China, about the Chinese government, guess what? Yes, they're going to penalize you. You lose your job. You could get arrested. That's not a democracy. Remember now, the government entity controlling China is the Chinese Communist what? The Chinese Communist Party. You can't tell me you can't say they're not a communist country when they're literally in the name Chinese Communist Party. And the Red Notebook, guess who's that after? Mao Zedong. Who was Mao Zedong? Mao Zedong was a dictator. They also don't have freedom of the press in China.
I mean, yes, I agree that there can be extremes, but generally speaking, when people have access to reliable, checkable, transparent information, they make better decisions.
I'm not sure if that's the case. Why do you say that? I mean, it's not a proven case that people... First of all, I don't think that's a proven case. Okay. Secondly, I don't think it's possible, practically. Okay. It's not a proven case. It's not like gravity, that you can prove it. That people who have reliable, checkable information, they make better decisions. I look at my kids, they don't do that. And they're grown. Okay.
Do they have access to
Yeah, I look at my
information?
No, I'm in the investment business. Okay, I got highly educated people who have perfect, transparent, great information, spreadsheets up to here. They make the wrong judgments. Okay, so I just don't think it's a scientifically proven principle. You can claim it, just like you claim human rights are God-given. Okay, they're God-given. There's nothing I could say. Fine. You take that as self-evident truth, like Thomas Jefferson claimed. You didn't have to prove it because self-evident. God said it, right? Freedom of the press is the same thing, I think. Well, I think press plays an important role in our society. Okay, media, journalism are important. But if not regulated and managed well, it could do a lot of harm. And could harm actual human beings, human lives. You could see everywhere in the world. Come on, look at what's happening in the world. Look at America, look at Europe, look at Africa. All these countries where speech is not regulated. Look at what's happening in those countries. Look at what's happening to their peoples. We don't want that.
But by the same token, in countries where speech is completely regulated,
I'm not saying
it's a black box. We don't know what's happening, and there are terrible things happening that only emerge later.
That is correct. Okay, I'm not claiming an absolute principle. I'm not claiming an abstract principle that somehow there's a particular way to regulate speech. All I'm saying is speech is a form of act. And acts are regulated because actions can harm people.
Okay, the thing is like, okay, you have to have speech regulated, but the problem is like, when it comes to the fact that you can't talk about... See, in America, we have freedom of speech. It's freedom from the government trying to take away your free speech, okay? In China, the government has the right to restrict your speech if you talk about the government. Like, let's say if someone wanted to protest against China being under communist rule, do you think that those protesters would last long? No, because China is a communist country. ruled by the government, and they will not have that. Okay? In America, freedom of speech, which is being slowly eroded day by day, proven by both administrations. We have free speech. We have freedom from the government trying to curtail our free speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the government trying to curtail your religion, freedom of the press, freedom from the government who would try to curtail the press. Okay? In China, the government is your religion. Okay? The Chinese Communist Party. You can have speech as long as you don't talk about the government. You can have the press. Don't talk about the government. You can't do independent journalism in China. Okay? You can't do that. They have state-run churches in China. You talk what they want you to talk about your religion. Okay? Xi Jinping had the Bible written in a certain way. Go against that, you're going to jail. In America, you have freedom of religion. You could be Buddhist, Muslim, whatever. China, you talk what we want you to say out of your religion. Now we're going to talk about Red Note. Remember that craze back last year, I believe, about Red Note?
Do not play no games with Red Note. If the company is owned by a Chinese communist company or Chinese communists, period. They'll take control of your camera, your microphone, and all of your photos and videos in your phone. They'll record your conversation. Read the terms and conditions, because those terms and conditions, well, I can't read Mandarin. Can you? Read it. They'll mess around and record your conversations, and if you are in the infrastructure of government or banking, or your spouse is, they'll get information from your spouse or you, get into the infrastructure based on the conversations and the information you're sharing using your phone. Don't do Red Note.
By running over to the Chinese app Red Note. I know we're all trying to piss off the government by running over to the Chinese app Red Note. And let me tell you something, guys. Red Note is not what you think it is. Red Note, they also call it the Red Little Book, or they call it some Chinese name I don't know how to pronounce. Red Note is like a cross between Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok. Now, that all sounds fine and dandy. It sounds like it's a place to be. But you got to remember, the app is Chinese based. So China has a lot of damn rules. And one of their main rules is they do not have freedom of speech. And you will not either. You cannot say cuss words. You cannot say anything about China. You cannot do half of what you can, not even half of what you can do here on TikTok. So don't think you're just going to run over there and have a hippie old good time. Now, also, they do not pay creators. The only way you can make money on Red Note is if your account gets big.
Let me play this all back again.
The government by running over to the Chinese app Red Note. And let me tell you something, guys. Red Note is not what you think it is. Red Note, they also call it the Red Little Book, or they call it some Chinese name I don't know how to pronounce. Red Note is like a cross between Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok. Now, that all sounds fine and dandy. It sounds like it's a place to be. But you got to remember, the app is Chinese based. So China has a lot of damn rules. And one of their main rules is they do not have freedom of speech. And you will not either. You cannot say cuss words. You cannot say anything about China. You cannot do half of what you can, not even half of what you can do here on TikTok. So don't think you're just going to run over there and have a hippie old good time. Now, also, they do not pay creators. The only way you can make money on Red Note is if your account gets big enough that you have someone to sponsor you, and then the sponsor pays you, basically, for talking about them. So Red Note is not what you think it is, guys. Plus, they said they're working on hard on translating it into English, but part of it you can read in English, but most of it that you can't. A lot of the Americans are going over there and posting videos, and they're getting red flagged right away as soon as they post. So
this is how they are.
Be careful with Red Note. Research China and its privacy violations before signing up, and you start using it. Listen, you know me, like, this is my work, right? So I do social media, like, for my 9 to 5. I do it for my business. Like, I does this as a creator for NBA content, providing value for you as a social media leader. And I'll say this. This is from Imaginary Wares. You right, my guy or my girl. I don't know. But not my girl. I'm married. But I digress. Since I signed up for the Red Note app, I received 2 texts. 2 texts. Both texts came from the same area code, and there was no text. It was just numbers and links. Huh? So you know me, I'm like, I'm not clicking shish kebabs. I don't give a shit soup puppy. I'm not about to click no links. So I deleted them. I deleted one, and then the same number texted me again with a different link. So I'm gonna take heed to this. Well, actually, I can't take heed to it because I've already committed, and now I'm just, all my information is out there. The Chinese government has it, whatever. If it's, be careful.
See what I'm saying? They're there to spy on you. Okay, they're not there to welcome you in arms. This is who they. This is the government. This is the Chinese government. And the United States government wants to be like the Chinese government. They're working to be like the Chinese government. That's what people don't understand. You want to run to this place over there, but that place over there wants to be like over here. They want to be like the government over here. You got some black people that want to come to China. All right? Only to find out that China is what the American government wants to be. And China is racist, too, towards blacks. They'll throw you in shark-infested waters if you're stowaway on their ships trying to go to China. I remember watching videos how they kick people out of their apartments in China. It's not pretty.
Do not download the Red Note app. And for those of you that don't know what Red Note is, you're literally living under a rock. Red Note is an alternative to TikTok. People have been downloading Red Note like crazy.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate the likes. Please put a little bit more. Share this through the algorithm. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Thinking that TikTok is going to be banned. Red Note is not in English. It's completely in Chinese, and literally every time that you download the app, you are giving them full access to your phone. Most people are like, oh, why would they want my information? Have you ever taken a picture of your passport or your social security card number, birth certificate, whatever it is? All of that information is stored on your phone. Also, have you considered if you have any confidential information from your company on your phone, you'd be giving access to RedNote to that as well, which is a huge issue. So if you get RedNote, they will literally have access to any files on your phone that are potentially confidential. Also, if you're a federal agent, you're in the military, or you have security clearance, clearly do not get this app. And if you do get this on your phone, you're probably going to be recommended. They're going to know, so just be wary. There's literally no reason to get the RedNote app. Please pass this along. RedNote is not.
Also, there's a thing about in China. Do you know that there's organ harvesting in China? Illegal organ harvesting? How many of you know about that? They steal your organs in China. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
That China has been running a $1 billion organ harvesting operation using living prisoners for over 20 years. Since 1999, multiple investigations have uncovered a horrifying truth. Chinese authorities systematically extract organs from Falun Gong practitioners, Uyghurs, and political prisoners while they're still alive. The evidence is overwhelming. Tribunal findings reveal forced blood testing in concentration camps. Hospital records show mass organ extractions. Former Chinese surgeons.
They got concentration camps in China.
Have testified about performing operations on conscious victims who were never given anesthesia. What makes this even more disturbing?
No anesthesia. This is horror movie levels stuff, man. Horror movie levels.
The impossibly short wait times. While patients in other countries wait years for organ transplants, China promises hearts and livers within weeks. This suggests a massive supply of unwilling donors. The system involves hospitals, military units, and government officials working together to cover up these crimes. Patients from around the world unknowingly receive these harvested organs, funding an industry built on human suffering. Despite overwhelming...
Let me ask you something, right? Do you think you could be in China and talk about this stuff with the social credit score system that they have? With literally no freedom of speech or the press? Yeah, I didn't think so.
Evidence from medical experts, investigators, and survivors who escaped the system, China continues to deny these practices.
And after I took all this organ, give it to a surgeon, to put in a box.
Yeah, I'm gonna try something else. Yeah, this is
so as quick as possible, remove liver and kidney. I actually felt so much relieved. And that is, if that is the things they're asking me to do, that is nothing. I can do it straight away, no problem. And my old fear, panic has gone because I thought they're going to shoot me. From that moment, my body actually turned into like robots, like trained or programmed the robot to carry out that following the program. So by the time I got into the one, they have prepared the body already. So I took the scalp, and then my chief surgeon standing next to me on my left. On my right is one of my nurse and the two assistants standing opposite me. So I started cutting straight away. When my scalp cut his, just from here, and the body tried to, struggling doing this, but he was shot to the right chest, and he was too weak to resist my insertion. My chief surgeon said, quick, be quick, hurry up. So I started cutting it. Then I saw blood. It was bleeding. And I said, this man is alive. Because the heart was still pumping the blood. Anyway, since I was told what to do, my only choice is to follow the order.
This is crazy, man. This is crazy.
Across Chinese social media, elderly celebrities are suddenly looking young again. Suspiciously young. For years, Jet Li appeared frail, hunched, and visibly aging. Rumors circulated that he was in poor health and might spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. But in recent videos, he looks like a different person entirely. Younger face, explosive energy, leaping, bouncing, almost childlike in movement. So out of character that even his longtime fans felt unsettled. Spiritual observers made an extraordinary claim. Jet Li's rejuvenation wasn't just cosmetic, they saw something inside him. According to their account, Jet Li's body now carries not only Chiu Fon's heart, but also parts said to come from two young girls, one quiet and gentle, the other rebellious. And in their telling, that is why he suddenly became hyperactive, restless, and almost uncontrollably energetic. To counter the speculation, Jet Li released a shirtless video by a swimming pool insisting he had never undergone such procedures. But the internet wasn't convinced, and it didn't take long for cracks to appear. Sharp-eyed netizens zoomed in on the video and immediately pointed out three things. No armpit hair, unusual folds along his neck, and what looked like seams of synthetic covering around his wrist. Together, the details fueled a new wave of suspicion. Was Jet Li appearing on camera with artificial skin? Jet Li is not alone. Ni Ping, China's famous host, once visibly weak and aging, is now hiking mountains at age 66. Sammo Hung, a legend in Hong Kong cinema, long dependent on a wheelchair, was spotted walking freely and even performing Tai Chi in Xi'an. People across China are asking the same question. What kind of technology can reverse age this dramatically, and at what cost? The most shocking moment came from Yuan Hong, a cosmetic entrepreneur with a heavily altered appearance. She posted a video boasting that she had reversed her age from 55 back to 30. In her video, she openly described how she achieved it. And the
You can't really knock this, because I remember there was a issue that, well, this is, not really a secret anymore, but there's this thing called Chrome. All right, I'm gonna say Chrome. I can't really say the whole word Chrome, and they were getting the Chrome from young people, and that's how you have all these actresses and actors looking young. If you know what I mean when I'm talking about Chrome.
Explanation stunned the entire internet. This rejuvenation wasn't just a treatment, it was a full body replacement procedure, far beyond anything resembling a standard transfusion. She explained that the process uses microvesicles and youth-linked functional proteins extracted from the circulation of 16 to 21-year-old males. These components are refined and then reintroduced into her body, triggering what she described as a cellular reversal of aging. And the part that alarmed the public the most?
A single treatment requires materials gathered from a very large number of young people, far more than most people would imagine. Cost? 20 million yuan per month, once a month. But while these rejuvenated celebrities were parading their new youth, showing off their energy, their wealth, and their sudden transformation, something else was happening across China, something far darker. Reports have been emerging frequently from elementary, middle, and high schools across China about large-scale collection of biological samples, and some of these operations are being carried out by publicly listed companies. Disappearances are rising across the country, including cases involving minors, such as a 5-year-old. More than 107 publicly reported in.
This is something, man. This is something. It's insane. But that's all I got for now. Thank you guys for coming by on my channel. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Later.